I'm Reverend W. Max Mons, and I'm here at the 2026 Lutheran Church Missouri Synod National Convention. I'm here with my good friend and colleague.
I'm Pastor Sean Kilgo. I serve at Redeemer Lutheran Church in Lawrence, Kansas, and also in campus ministry at KU, which is what brings us together, because
Indeed, yeah.
Max also serves.
I serve at the University of Iowa. And how long have you been at Kansas?
So I've been there for 5 years, a little over 5 years now.
Over 5 years.
So not quite as long tenured as you.
Yeah, I'm
all
going
right.
to enter my 26th year.
Yeah.
So it's weird being older than their parents now. Very different from when I started.
It is. Yeah, we just had that realization. My wife and I have been married 20 years next month, and that means that we've been married longer than most of our students have been alive. And
Yep.
that makes you feel old pretty quick, but
It does.
It's great to be able to engage with them in that way as well.
Absolutely. So we both went to seminary. You went to the Fort, and
I did.
I went to Concordia Seminary in St. Louis. And what would you say was the biggest, most formational thing for you during your time at the Fort?
Yeah, so I've talked with other guys about this, especially guys that are talking about going to the SEM and whatnot, that like this is one of the greatest things, is that you get to live this out, right? So you're in chapel, hearing the word together, receiving the sacrament together, you're in classes together, but you also get to hang out on the side and ask each other these questions and call each other out for saying dumb things in class and that sort of stuff. And then when you can't figure it out, you get to talk with the profs, especially during coffee hour, Gemütlichkeit on Fridays and all that. So that's, I think for me, that kind of incarnational reality on campus, just the whole thing put together, was incredibly vital for me being the pastor that I am today.
I had a very similar experience, that being there on campus and being immersed in the community, being immersed in the Word. Daily chapel I thought was so foundational and formational, because as you know, the days get long there. And where else are you going to be in your life where life stops for 40 minutes a day and you get to go and worship and hear the Word? I just thought that was amazing. And then the time with the brothers and the time with the profs was insane. That was just so much fun and such a great time.
Right.
So campus ministry, what of your seminary formation would you look and say has benefited you in being a campus pastor? Yeah,
so this is an interesting thing, right? Because campus ministry isn't, at least it wasn't for us. I know our curriculum is slightly different, but I didn't have a class on campus ministry.
No, I didn't either.
Right. And so you would think like, oh, well, you need to have a class on campus ministry to do this. And there's some maybe practical things you can think about. But I think one of the great pieces of preparation that I had was being so well trained theologically, to think through things theologically, to know the scriptures, to know the confessions, to know church history that is dealt with a lot of these questions already, that when students come up who are just immersed in this world and they're getting all these different things coming at them and not sure what to do with it, they come up and they ask this whatever questions, like, hey, pastor, I encountered this, what do you think? And I'm able to kind of dialogue with them and help them figure it out. And they're like, oh, that's so great. And the reason I can do that is because of how I was trained at the seminary to think this way and to know the texts and to be able to apply them when people are asking me questions, and how that's actually impacted their lives.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's something of the training that we get in the Word and in the confessions, when people come with their questions, to be able to point them to, the rock solid Word of God and say, this is where it is. And even, reflecting my vicarage experience, my vicarage supervisor had a PhD in exegesis.
Okay.
And we'd sit in Bible class and people would say, well, what about? And so many times you look and go, read the verse. What's it say?
Right.
And they'd read it and go, well, there's your answer. And they'd be like, well, no. And he goes, no. That's the definitive Word of God. That's what it says. And, if you struggle with that, you struggle with that, but that's not God's problem. That's your problem,
Right.
And two, I think just the questions that we get asked as campus pastors, we get some pretty crazy questions sometimes.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
To be able to look and to say, well, what causes you to ask that question, or why is that question important to you? That was a part of our training, because when we'd ask questions, we could ask that. I had a young lady ask me one time about the story of Lazarus, and she asked, did Jesus love Mary and Martha as much as he loved Lazarus? And I said, yeah, sure, but why do you ask? And through a series of conversations, I found out, well, your question isn't, does Jesus love Mary and Martha? Your question is, does Jesus love me?
Right.
And that's a whole different thing. But I think we got trained on how to deal with that and how to talk to people through those things.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just this ability to take up the scriptures then aren't, in a way that does not make the scriptures an abstraction.
Yeah.
Right? These are very practical, these are real, they apply to your life, and to take that up in these questions that people are asking. And so often, as I'm sure you experience as well, our students who are struggling with these questions of identity, they're struggling with these questions of, does God love me?
Yeah.
And kind of, especially when they recognize their own sin, they're like, man, how could God possibly love me?
Yes.
In spite of this sin that's sitting here, and to be able to come and provide the balm of the gospel to that, and then to bring them in, like, to have the tools that we've been trained to use then, things like confession and the Lord's Supper, and to point them to their baptismal identity and all this. And so often, especially students that are coming outside of the Lutheran confession and asking these questions, we'll go through and we'll dialogue, and they'll say, this is so great.
Yeah.
Like I have asked so many other pastors this question, and nobody's been able to answer it. And your answer was just great.
Yeah.
And then they end up coming to the church and, get baptized, go through instruction, join the church. This is wonderful.
I think there's something about the depth of training that we had leads to a depth of answer.
Correct.
To questions, where I'm not going to give you a superficial, feel-good answer. I'm going to look through the scriptures and the confessions and say, this is the hard answer to your hard question.
Right.
I'm not saying hard to accept or anything like that, but I'm just saying, I want to give you something of substance. We talk about this in our campus ministry all the time. A lot of students will give us an hour a week. So we want to make sure we're setting meat and potatoes before them every week.
Right.
That is something of great, solid substance.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and like you mentioned, like that we are trained in this way. Like as Lutherans, we just think this way automatically. That when you ask me a question, my first instinct is to say, what do the scriptures say about this?
Yeah, do I have a Bible passage for this?
Right.
Yep, exactly right.
And we almost always do, right? So there's some of these kind of weird, obscure questions that are maybe a bit more philosophical, but even there are principles that are laid out in the scriptures that we can then apply to that. And I've noticed our students engage with that in a really wonderful sort of way, because they have a hunger for, I want the scriptures to be able to answer this question for me, and I'm just not sure how they do. And as Lutherans, and the way we've been trained to take up the scriptures this way, like it's just our bread and butter on this.
Exactly. So in that regard of the training.
Yeah.
So how long have you been a pastor now?
10 years.
10 years, all right. I'm closing in on 30. What would you, if you were to go back and look at Sean Kilgo going to first year seminary, based on what you know now, what would you say to him?
I would say, I think all of us would probably say some version of this. Spend more time dealing with the text. I mean, as well as I know this stuff, I'm always lamenting, like, man, I wish I knew this better.
Oh yeah.
And I think that would be the biggest thing for me is, spend more time taking this really, really seriously, in hindsight, being able to answer really readily these questions and not have to sometimes struggle with them, especially early on as a pastor. But
I totally agree with that. Just Bible, the more in the Bible that I could be to study and to learn and to be able to articulate what the scriptures are saying to people, I think is crucially important. I would encourage my younger self to do that. Of course, I was there pretty close to when they were actually written. But I just think that's just so important to have that foundation, and then to bring those things to bear as you go. Because I'm sure you have this too. There's times where I'll be reading a text during the divine service, and all of a sudden it's like, where was this all my life?
Yeah, the light bulb goes on in the middle of the reading.
In the middle of the reading, and you're like, I wish I was preaching on this morning.
Right.
Well,
there's next year.
There's next year, yeah. Or 2 years or whatever.
2 years, yeah.
So, but it's great to be able to have those opportunities.
Yeah. Well, and I think that this speaks to we get this wonderful seminary education over the course of 4 years or longer, stay on for an STM or whatever.
Yep.
And even with that, I mean, there's just so much to dig into.
Yeah.
And I am constantly thankful for the time that I spent at the seminary doing this stuff, because I can't imagine trying to deal with the situations I deal with, answer these questions, help these students grow in their faith without the training that the seminary gave me.
Oh, no, it'd be absolutely frightening.
Yeah.
And I think about, because I'm sure you have these on your campus, the parachurch groups,
right,
things like that. And I've talked to some of my students who've gone to those, and they come back and say, well, it's a feel-good thing, but I don't really get much depth. And often what's really sad, I don't get much Jesus crucified and risen for me.
Right. Yeah, we have same deal. We've had students that have been connected with the various online or on-campus groups, and it's almost almost verbatim what you just said. It's like Jesus isn't there almost in the conversations.
Yep.
And the great emphasis that we get at the seminary is this is always about Christ, and particularly always about Christ for you.
Yep, exactly right. Well, Sean, it's always a pleasure to get together with you.
Great to see you.
God bless, brother.
You as well.
All right. Yep. Go to the seminary.